Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We as lapidaries, people that polish rocks, are very familiar with the cost of the different diamond products available today. Whether that be diamond saw blades for cutting rocks, diamond wheels on a cabochon machine, diamond belts on things like that you would put on an expandable drum arbor like I built in a previous video. And these diamond products are very, very expensive. Well, why do you think they are expensive? Anybody? Anybody? Well, I think a certain number of you said, well, diamonds, right? Diamonds are expensive. So therefore, Diamond Pacific 6" by 6" by 1.5" like Nova wheel, which is, let's say, $150. That's got to have like $50 in diamonds on it, right? Right? I mean, it costs a lot. I mean, it's a plastic wheel with foam and like a belt with diamonds on it. Well, let me show you something. Right here in my hand, I have 300 carats of diamonds, and these 300 carats of diamonds cost me like about 60 or $70. 300. You know how many carats of diamond are on that like Nova wheel, that 6" wheel that's like $150? About $2. About $2 in diamonds are on that. So that said, we are going to start here on the channel making our own diamond products. And we're going to be starting with diamond belts for this thing. So with the 8" by 3" expandable drum arbor, I've been using these, like this is a 1200 grit silicon carbide belt, and this is great. Like this belt's like $4, and they get cheaper. You buy them in bulk, you know. And I love silicon carbide, but it does have some downsides, because typically I would take something like this that I took up to a 1200 grit on the silicon carbide and take it over to my buffer and polish it up, and that works great. Except look at this, okay? Do you see in there we have like this pocket of quartz crystal, and there's like a piece that broke off and rehealed. And if you put cerium oxide on this, wet cerium oxide, it's getting in there. You're never getting it out. You're not. It's like going to get back in there. I'm going to know it's there. It's going to make me completely crazy. I want diamond belts. For me to go from 1200 grit silicon carbide to 3000 grit diamond belt, 14,000, 50,000, each one of those belts, depending on where you look, right, is going to be between $100 and $120 each belt. Each belt. So let's just say $350 additional dollars for diamond belts on that. We're not doing that. We're making our own. A lot of what you're going to see here in this video, I learned from another YouTube videos. I will drop some links down below. Kenny Polvi. I'm sorry, buddy, if I mispronounced your last name. I'm going to drop a link down to his video. He's been doing this a long, long time. So I have all of my supplies over here. We're going to be making some diamond belts. It's going to be really, really good, I think. And let's look at this stuff. Let's look at the bench. Let's start by talking about the belts. I'm going to be using these blank belts that have nothing on them. Now they do have a little bit of a backing. They have a little bit of a backing in here, a shiny side, but these are just raw belts that we will be coating with different epoxies and diamonds. There will be a cost breakdown at the end of this video. Well, let's talk about this thing right here. This is a board with some little brackets, and this on the end is a synchronous motor. Now everybody probably watching this, you already own a synchronous motor. Synchronous motors are the motors that make the turntable in your microwave turn really slow. So like we're in the range of 5-ish RPM. They're very cheap, and they come with wires. I'll put a link down to this guy as well. And you turn it on, and if you look like, well, maybe you can kind of see right there, we're spinning quite slowly. Well, that's important. These are also really strong, good motors. we need this because we're going to take an expandable drum wheel, that one of the defective ones that I got, and we're going to be putting a belt on it. We're going to be mixing up epoxy and diamonds and some dye, actually, and then putting it on here, and it's slowly going to rotate at this 5 or 6 RPM while it dries. And that way we don't get pooling and stuff. So let me get all of this set up, and then we'll start talking a little bit more about the epoxy, about the diamonds, and all of that good stuff. Here you can see I have my first belt. I have some green painter's tape to protect the backside of the belt and protect the wheel. So if there's any like seepage of the epoxy and diamond, it doesn't fuse the belt to the wheel. And we can turn it on. And well, look, we are spinning. Now in the process, I'll be brushing the stuff on, and we'll let it cure like this. Okay, so that's where we're at with that. These are most of the supplies that we're going to be using for mixing up our diamonds and epoxy. I got some little cups here that we'll be using. The diamonds that I got, this is diamond powder from Kingsley North, but they're, you know, you can buy this on eBay. You can buy it, lots of different companies sell this stuff, and it's all the same. What you have is CVD, chemical vapor deposition diamonds, ground up and put through a mesh to determine the grit. There's like a mesh to grit conversion chart, but that's basically it. So for each one of my belts, we're going to be doing 20 carats of diamonds on each one. The 3,000, let's see, where are we at here? Wait, there's 50, we'll do 50, 14, 3,000. Okay. The 3,000, we're going to be using epoxy 220. And then, actually, we'll use epoxy 220 on these first two because I know it works. I mean, Kenny uses it. He's been doing it a long time. And then as an experiment, I'm going to use some Bob Smith Industries for the 50,000. We will be putting in a little bit of epoxy dye. I'm going to go green, purple, orange. That way I can figure out what the belts are that I have at a glance. Otherwise, they're all going to be the same color, right? We'll be applying it with these acid-safe brushes. You can get like, I don't know, like 30 of these for a couple of dollars in a giant package at Harbor Freight. And then you just throw them in the garbage when you're done. So that, I got a little mini scoop here on my tweezers for getting the diamond out to the appropriate amount. And we're going to be weighing everything. So we're going to be doing equal parts here on the scale and get it going and start applying our diamonds. This is what the diamond powder looks like. Nothing too special. We will need a scale. This is a pretty sensitive scale. I'm a fan of this model. It also has like an enclosure and all of that good stuff. So let's set this up for carats. Come on, come on. All right, it's already set up for carats. So we will put that guy on there and we can tar that out. A couple of things to note here. We want a very thin coating of epoxy and diamond. So we are going to start by adding the diamond, and then we can tar it out, add equal parts of epoxy, and then just the tiniest drop of dye. And it's also really important to not cross-contaminate all of your items here. So the plan is, between this, everything's going to get washed. We're going to be washing everything. That's actually more than what maybe we'll go with 15 on these. We're going to go with 15. We're a little over 15. We'll follow Kenny's advice on this and see how that's going to work. An example, right? We have this dirty tool here. I'm going to make sure to wash everything ultra well, because I definitely do not want any contamination of other belts. So I think we'll do an additional 20 carats of each, like the hardener and the epoxy. There we go. This is a slow cure epoxy, so there's no big rush to try to get all of this done in a super quick way. We're not doing like a 5-minute thing here, so we should be totally fine. Let's see how little of a drop of this stuff we can put on. There we go. One single drop. That might be enough. This is epoxy dye, I think, goes a long ways. So now mix this up with a well, that really might have to add more here. Kind of threw a little bit of diamond powder out with that initial mixing. And maybe a little bit more dye here, a little bit more. It's kind of getting a little swallowed up by the coloring of that gray of the diamond dust, but there we go. Let's get the wheel going, get this stuff applied. I think for starters here, I'm going to do it maybe just by hand. We'll get this kind of on here in some big amounts. This first initial kind of go at it might require more. We're a little wiggly on here because these belts are not, the wheel doesn't want to stay on. Learning experience here, learning experience. Get all this stuff on here. I think on the next one, I might try a little bit more epoxy. Spread all this stuff out as good as I can. I think being that these are new and fresh belts, they require a little bit more, I guess, epoxy or than others. So what I'm kind of doing now is there's some spots here that didn't have enough for, and I'm just going to manually kind of spin this. And you might also be able to see that some of the hairs off my brush came off in the belt. I don't think that's a big problem, but I am going to try and pick them out if I'm able to here. Like some of these guys right here. It's slightly stressful, if I'm being completely honest, as you work with this. But you know, I do think once I have these belts established, I'll just be recoating them in the future. So we will be much better off moving forward, recoating, as opposed to like establishing, I guess. I guess that's how we would say that. So smooth these guys out, get my edges, because you want to be able to work edges with any kind of belt that you might have. And one of the benefits here to the tape is, and these being kind of wheels that I don't particularly care about. I mean, these were the ones that didn't really expand because they're either old or the rubber was hard. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, so let's turn this back on and check our work. Smooth out any spots. You know, we don't want any like big globs on this. It's kind of nice to be able to stop it a little bit and just let it spin. Definitely a learning experience, a little stressful, okay? Definitely should have used more epoxy for the establishment of the belt. And I will correct that on the next two. The next two, I'm probably going to use this stuff. I'm going to use this BSI. I didn't really like the 220. Working with the 220s, it seemed really thick, and applying it to the belt wasn't the best. So I'm going to let this run, and we'll let it spin here for about an hour, and then we can probably handle it, and we're going to give it like a good long cure time, and I'll work on the other two. This is the second belt, and I'm actually on day 2 of this project. And I think it's a little more difficult than I anticipated. Here's my first belt, my 3000. There's the 14. I think the establishment of belts is going to be more difficult than just a simple recoating of an already established belt. So this one, you can kind of see we have some light spots here, but we are almost entirely covered. And then you see, like right there, there's a spot that just didn't, like, absorbed into the fabric. So when this is still slightly tacky to the touch, what I'm going to do is, when this is fully dry and that one's fully dry, I'm going to do a second light coat over it, just to kind of refill in some spaces. So the project is a little slightly more pricey, being that I'm coating it with 20 carats of diamond, and then I'll probably do another light batch of like 10 and just real light coat over the belt, and we'll leave it there and see how they dry up and see how they work, and go from there. But otherwise, I do like the Bob Smith Industries epoxy. That's what this one is, which I think is nicer than the 220, but we will find out. Of course, you know, this is a learning experiment for me, and that's, well, I guess you get to piggyback on my screw ups that I might make. The dye that I've been using, like, I put in a fair amount, and I think the diamond powder just really overwhelms it. You know, when you see it side by side, there is a slight difference, right? Like, that's kind of more gray and a little more grassy green, but maybe in the second coating, more color will take and we'll be good. But that's just my theory right now. You know, this is all, like I said, we're learning together as we go. Well, it has been a couple of weeks, and my first experiment with a belt is still tacky. So this is, well, it's garbage, okay? It's not, who knows what happened there. However, I have 2 completed belts here, a 3000 and a 14,000 grit belt. I have not tested them yet. We're about to do that here shortly. These have 2 coatings on it. So what I did for the recipe for these belts was the first coating really absorbed into the belt. So I used that Bob Smith Industries epoxy with 20 carats of diamond and 30 carats of epoxy and 30 carats of hardener. Put that on there, mostly coated it. It absorbed in, so that's the first light coat. I then let it cure for 24 hours. I then did a second coat with 15 carats of diamonds and 30 carats of hardener and 30 carats of epoxy. And now it's been almost a week. I've been busy since these 2 have been done. So that's the recipe for these. The total cost per belt with everything I just said, $10.70 per belt. They have about $7.72 of diamonds on each belt and about $3.06 of epoxy, which brings the total cost of each belt to $21.48. So, the test I have here, a Thunder Egg cut in half. Both of these are polished up to a 1200 grit. silicon carbide. So we're gonna fire up the arbor here. We're gonna take it up to a 3000, dry it off, look at what the 3000 looks like in comparison to the other half, and then do 14,000 and see how these go. This is 1200 grit silicon carbide and 3000 grit diamond. Okay, this is definitely not as good as a optical grade cerium oxide, but I would say this has more of a bright luster on it. And don't forget, this is just like my initial break-in with this. Let's take this one over to the 14,000. Once again, 1200 grit silicon carbide and 14,000 grit diamond. Break-in period, obviously. Let's look at these outside real quick, and we can kind of have a little bit of a better idea as to how they could potentially look. You know, I think clearly the 14,000 looks better. I am going to continue to work with these and see what I can't produce with it. I think my initial test with the belt is good. They probably need more break-in. You know, this is my 14,000. There's my window. I'm happy with this. This is an acceptable finish, in my opinion, for something that I don't want to take over to my cerium oxide wheel and pack that cerium into that. This is okay. Bear in mind, I had planned on making a 50,000 grit belt, but I screwed up that first one. So I can already hear, the Muppets up in the balcony complaining that I didn't try them long enough. So what I'm going to do is, today is April 13th. I'm going to now use these for who knows how long, a while. And then the next clip will be me in the future, but it'll be now for you. Well, it's summertime now. It's nice and warm out here. I have been working with my 2 diamond belts. They are holding up incredibly well. You know, I have not made the 50,000 grit yet, and the reason for that is, well, it's rockhounding season, right? It's rockhounding season. We're just busy, but the belts are holding up great. You know, they look amazing. There's a fly in here. Yeah, look at that. Look at that right there. That's pretty good. I'm very happy with that. Obviously, you know, going 3,000, 14,000 optical grade cerium oxide produces excellent results. And for the times in which you can't, well, you know, the higher grits. I'm going to make 50,000 grit, probably a 1200. Those will be my next kind of ones to add to the mix. But yeah, I'm very pleased with how these came out. I mean, it really doesn't look like they have any wear whatsoever. There was a break-in period of maybe 3 or 4 rocks, about 3 or 4, and then it was good. That just kind of like took down some of these like little high spots on it, but very happy. And you know, it was a good proof of concept. It was a good proof of concept, and yeah, I hope you found this to be useful. Maybe it can save you some money. You can make some of your own belts. Don't be afraid to work with epoxy and all that good stuff. And I only screwed up one. So there you go. There you go. All right, everybody. I hope you liked it. Drop me a thumbs up if you did, and I'll catch you in the next video.